Part 33. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wangshi-san. Chapter 321. The power of the laser gun is needless to say, but it also consumes a lot of mana. After a few seconds, Dr. Edith's mana had dropped by half, which means he could still fire 5 more shots. The boss level life automatically recovers blood and mana every second. The soul collector, including spirit beasts, recovers 3% of the life mana every second. The fairy king, including fairy beasts, recovers 6% of the life mana every second. The holy king, including holy beasts, recovers 9% of the life mana every second, and the god, including divine beasts, recovers 10% of the life mana every second. Dr. Edith was a spirit king before his death, but now he is just a remnant soul, and the recovery effect is not strong. That is to say, once he runs out of mana, he is simply a wooden stake and will not be able to do anything. Dr. Edith quickly realized this, and after he fired 5 shots, he actually stopped. Yang Tian did not dare to stop, and continued to move. Who knows when he will fire the next shot? The laser gun has a too fast firing rate. If you stand still and get fired, it is almost impossible to dodge, and if you move, the opponent may not hit. Summon skeleton mages. While Yang Tian was moving, he also summoned more than 300 skeleton mages and commanded them to surround and fight Dr. Edith. At the moment, Dr. Edith was a remnant soul, with an illusory body and immune to physical attacks. Yang Tian himself was of course a magic attack, but it seemed that no other undead under his command had the ability to output magic except the skeleton mages. That is to say, among the undead army under Yang Tian, only the skeleton mages could pose a slight threat to Dr. Edith. Of course, even if the skeleton mages could not pose a threat to Dr. Edith, even if they could only deceive the latter's mana, that would be great. Fireball. Ice Bomb. Windblade. Ground Spike. 13,021. 10,892. 7,032. The skeleton mages focused their fire, causing dust to fly. The battle scene looked spectacular, but in fact, Dr. Edith did not lose much blood. This is normal. It is good enough for an elite to break through the defense of a hero. Humph, these rubbish are not worth my energy. Looking at the skeleton mages, Dr. Edith sneered and took out a laser sword again. He held a gun in one hand and a sword in the other. Dr. Edith has been devoted to scientific research all his life. Combat is not his strong point. He does not even have a combat profession. But it must be said that the weapons he researched are indeed ridiculously strong, which has improved his combat power. Dr. Edith does not have a combat profession, so he naturally does not have combat skills. The laser gun has a powerful armor-piercing effect, so he also has a strong melee ability. He was seen waving the laser sword wildly, crushing the skeleton mages one by one. While slaughtering, he floated his body and moved towards Yang Tian. Because he was a soul, his illusory body could even pass through the body of the skeleton mage. Yang Tian's eyes condensed and continued to retreat. Because of the bone shield, he was not afraid of the laser sword, but he was afraid of the laser gun. Oh, there are also ghosts. Yang Tian's eyes suddenly lit up. Ghosts have no output ability, so it is difficult to say whether ghosts are physical attacks or monster attacks, but it is also similar to souls, and is essentially inclined to magic. Summon ghosts. Yang Tian spread his arms, and countless ghosts flew out from his sleeves, as many as 300. Under Yang Tian's will, the ghosts screamed and floated towards Dr. Edith. Dr. Edith seemed to know this kind of undead, and frowned immediately. He swung the laser sword and chopped it fiercely, killing several ghosts in a few strokes. However, there were too many ghosts, and he couldn't kill them all. After a while, he was possessed by the ghosts. Very good, it works. Yang Tian's eyes were stern, and he quickly went around behind Dr. Edith. Because of the effect of the title Low-Key Warrior, he would trigger triple back attack damage. Undead Transformation, Skeleton Archer. Armor-piercing arrows. Multiple arrows. Arrow Rain. Meteor arrows. 168-2300. 120-0030. 120-0030. Yang Tian began to deal damage like crazy, dealing millions of damage at any time, causing Dr. Edith's health bar to drop like water. Because of the characteristics of the undead transformation, the undead he transformed into were all magic output. 2 seconds later, before Yang Tian finished his output, Dr. Edith released the control. He suddenly turned around and wanted to draw his gun at Yang Tian, but the next second, before he could shoot, he was possessed by the ghost again. If it were any other boss, any large-scale skill would be enough to clear the ghost, but Dr. Edith could only fall into a cycle of control. Because Dr. Edith turned around, in order to ensure the effect of a low-key warrior, Yang Tian had to go around again. After several rounds, Yang Tian exhausted Dr. Edith to death. Most heroes have their signature equipment, such as Amos's ring and Dixie's Ice Soul sword, but Edith does not. He was the only exception, because he was not famous for his martial arts, but for his smart mind and advanced science and technology. Dr. Edith dropped a lot of things, but Yang Tian didn't care about any of them, but he finally collected 3 heroic spirits of Edith, which was enough. At this time, we still need the heroic soul of Edith, the body of Edith, and the fountain of life to completely revive Dr. Edith. Yang Tian couldn't help but take out the small radar again to locate the last heroic soul of Dr. Edith. However, after the screen pointer spun around for a while, it prompted that the search failed again. Yang Tian was not panicked. This Sin City and the outside world were completely 2 different spaces. Since he couldn't find it in the Sin City, it must be outside. In short, clear the Sin value first and go out first. Yang Tian pondered for a moment, then went downstairs to the street where monsters gathered, and summoned the army of undead to start swiping hellhounds. As the hellhounds fell to the ground, Yang Tian continued to gain contribution points, thus slowly cleaning up the Sin value. Generally, high-level players will care about their red names. Once they are red names, they will immediately go to the Sin City to swipe them, because it will be very painful if the red names are killed. But Yang Tian was different. In his previous life, he played an assassin, and it was common for him to get a red name for killing people. Basically, he would get a red name every time. If he went to the City of Sin every time, it would undoubtedly waste a lot of time. He no longer cared about getting a red name. Moreover, for him, getting a red name would strengthen his desire to survive and keep himself in a sense of crisis, thus ensuring his best condition. But there were also some bad things. For example, now, because he had not been to the City of Sin for a long time, his Sin value had accumulated to a very scary level. After coming in like this today, he probably wouldn't be able to leave for 3 to 5 days. Time passed slowly. At noon the next day, the branch Sea of the Chinese War Zone, that is, the Sea of Ruins, finally welcomed a newcomer. I never thought that there would be someone with a higher level than me in the game, and there was more than one person above the Blue Sea. God's left hand was riding a single-person car, speeding towards the Island of Ruins. 1. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 322. The god's left hand appeared in the Sea of Ruins, which meant that he had reached level 80. There was no doubt about that. As a new map, the Sea of Ruins was unknown. Yang Tian and Huang Mao and others, as pioneers, opened the map display of the Island of Ruins, 1, which was also a contribution to those who came after them. So, when the god's left hand came to the Sea of Ruins, his map was very clean, and the only thing that was displayed was the Island of Ruins, 1. That was why he drove the ship directly over. The people in front were mainly muddy water, and the rest were not a concern. The god's left hand landed on the shore and immediately familiarized himself with the environment of the island. He also killed some earth dragons. After that, he began to search for Yang Tian and others. He came here this time to kill. As the king of the Chinese gaming industry, he cared a lot about his reputation and could not tolerate even a grain of sand in his eyes. Even if it was just an honor like the first place in the level list, which was not very valuable, he did not want outsiders to get involved. Since there were people ahead of him, he would kill them all, and he would naturally return to the first place. Although the island was large, God's left hand moved fast enough. With his full search, he soon found Huang Mao and others. In the open land in front of the Earth Dragon Cave, Xiao Jin and the Light Lion King each attracted a group of Earth Dragons, and they carried the monsters, while Huang Mao and others were responsible for harvesting, killing them in groups. God's left hand watched in a shadow. Is that the Royal Skeleton King? The achievements of their group today are probably inseparable from the Skeleton King. God's left hand sneered in his heart, Royal War Servant, what a powerful fighting force. Of course, Huang Mao now also has the Light Lion King, the Royal Beast War Pet, which is undoubtedly another fighting force. Muddy water seems not here, God's left hand exclaimed lightly, and rushed out with a giant sword. With short hair, thick eyebrows, and big eyes, and a slightly thin figure, he was wearing a black armor outside, and carrying a 2-meter-long giant sword, which immediately showed a sense of might. When he rushed out from the shadows and bathed in the sun, a murderous aura suddenly attacked him. Huang Mao turned his head first, followed by Xiaojin and the other beasts and everyone else, and couldn't help but exclaimed, God's left hand, why is he here? As the recognized number one in the Chinese gaming industry, God's left hand can't hide his identity at all. Don't panic, he's just one person, there's no reason for so many of us to be afraid of him. To be honest, I've wanted to meet him for a long time. You cover me. Huang Mao swept out with a sweeping move, quickly clearing a group of earth dragons in front, and then he and the Light Lion King went to meet God's left hand one after another. The Light Lion King came back first, and the speed of the Royal Beast Battle Pet has an unreasonable advantage at this stage. In a flash, it has pounced in front of God's left hand, and its terrifying giant claws, with a bright electric light, slapped God's left hand's forehead like lightning. Looking at this scene, everyone was a little excited. You know, the combat power of the Light Lion King is very high. If this hits, it might kill God's left hand instantly. But at this moment, a lion shadow suddenly appeared around God's left hand, and the lion roared, instantly knocking out the Light Lion King and Huang Mao around him. This is obviously the skill of the title Leo Guardian, Lion's Roar. How is it possible? Such a strong prediction. Huang Mao was terrified when he fainted. He knew very well the attack speed of the Light Lion King's claw. If God's left hand released the lion's roar at that time, it would definitely be too late. This was obviously a prediction. God's left hand had calculated it before and released the lion's roar at least half a second earlier. The battle between masters is often just a moment, and details are very important. In this wave, God's left hand obviously had the upper hand. After knocking out Huang Mao and the Light Lion King, God's left hand immediately moved around the Light Lion King and ran towards Huang Mao. As he ran, a strong purple doqi rushed out of his body. Purple doqi is the full-level doqi, 8 times the damage, 8 times the defense. Swish. God's left hand didn't even use any skills. He rushed over and slashed the yellow-haired man with a sword, and took him away. As his master died in battle, the Light Lion King, his war pet, also disappeared. Killing 2 main forces in an instant, the power of God's left hand is undoubtedly reflected. So strong, this is the first in the national server, and the only one with God-level blood so far. Everyone couldn't help but gasp. God's left hand does have God-level blood, which is the blood of the God Beast Flag Thief at that time. Although the bloodline skills of the Goblin bloodline are not strong, the attribute advantages of the god-level bloodline are real. Don't be stunned, he's rushing over. Focus fire from a distance and kill him in seconds. Feeling the strong pressure brought by God's left hand, Xiao Fei roared, and then disappeared in stealth, looking for an opportunity to sneak attack. Hearing this, Huo Wu and the others immediately gritted their teeth and focused their fire. Explosive flame, wind and thunder, arrow rain. All of them were large-scale explosive skills. The strength shown by God's left hand was too strong, and Huo Wu and the others did not dare to give the opponent a chance to move and dodge. We have such strong equipment and so many skill points, and our output is definitely not bad. With such all-round concentrated fire, no matter how strong he is, he will definitely not be able to stop it, Huo Wu said in his heart. However, a golden bull phantom suddenly appeared around God's left hand, and when the explosive flame and other skills were hit, he actually withstood it. Taurus Guardian, 10 seconds of dominance, use control. Xiao Fei's instructions sounded again, and even he felt very tricky. Leo, Taurus, and the Guardian title that Yang Tian had, almost all of them were owned by God's left hand. Maybe God's left hand even had cancer. Since you are steel-fed, don't speak and expose yourself. God's left hand suddenly turned his head and stared at Xiao Fei's position with a smile. Xiao Fei was startled and secretly said that it was bad, but before he could react, God's left hand had already rushed up with a sword and chopped him to the ground with one sword. God's left hand's offensive did not stop. After he killed Xiao Fei in a second, he rushed towards the crowd with the Phantom of Taurus. The strong figure dragging the giant sword made people feel psychological pressure. 7-star arrow. Someone in the crowd immediately used control skills, but God's left hand took a step sideways and easily avoided it. Control can indeed temporarily remove my dominance, but it has to hit me. God's left hand smiled slightly, his expression full of confidence. As the number 1 player in the national server, God's left hand's combat awareness, positioning and other basic abilities have all reached a superb level. He can dodge non-large scale skills by moving around, and control skills are generally small scale, so he is so calm and confident. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, Ba Wang Shi-san. Chapter 323. After a battle, the surrounding environment had been reduced to a mess. The left hand of God was alone, but he killed a group of people and ran away. God's left hand flashed through several controls, and then he smoothly broke into the crowd. The huge sword that looked extremely heavy danced like a tiger in his hand, and after a while, he chopped down several people in succession. This guy is too scary. We are no match at all. Run away. With a scream, the crowd immediately dispersed, and some people had already taken out their teleportation stones and were preparing to escape. It's impossible for you to escape. God's left hand smiled contemptuously, and immediately a flame ignited at his feet, and a tiger roared out from the flames. The tiger is about 2 meters tall and 5 meters long. It is obviously one size smaller than the bright lion. It has red skin and even has flames burning on its body. It is obviously a fire attribute battle pet. Roar. The tiger roared, and 100 yards in radius instantly turned into a sea of fire. A battle pet that knows the sea of fire? Damn it, it's all over now. Curses rang out, and everyone was in chaos. Looking at the ranking of battle pets in the national server, the only royal beast battle pet is the bright lion. The flame tiger is at most a king beast and a pet, maybe even a lord. The power of its sea of fire is not strong, but the continuous burning of the sea of fire will make everyone continue to be in an attack state, making it impossible to use the teleportation stone to escape. And in this case, wouldn't it mean that they would be harvested one by God's left hand? Let me hold him back while you find a way to escape. At the critical moment, Xiaojin stood up and saw him shouldering the five elements giant sword and spitting out a cold metal accent from his mouth. Hearing this, the remaining people looked at each other and frowned. They are players, and if they fail, they will just lose their level. Although it is uncomfortable to fall back to level 79, it is still within the tolerance range. But Xiaojin is an NPC, and if he dies, he really dies. That's not okay. If we do this, Brother Shui will break off our friendship. It's better for us to hold him down. You can take Xianyu and Alice and escape quickly. Long Lu shook his head decisively and took Blue Moon, Blue Cat, Green Algae, and others. Crazy around God's left hand. It is undoubtedly a suicidal act for them to do this, but if they don't do this, they will not forgive themselves. It is better to be dropped than to disappear. Behind the crowd, Xianyu and Long irresolutely took Alice's little hand and said, "Let's go quickly." But Alice looked at the people in front of her, feeling a little unbearable. "Stop it, we can't die here, can't we?" Takir said. "Also, those guys are not from our world. No matter how they are killed, they will not really die." Alice then nodded, and with the cover of Xiaojin, Longliu and others, she and Takir retreated backwards. Not long after, they were out of the range of the Sea of Fire. As long as the combat status was cancelled, they could use the teleportation stone to escape. The battle in the Sea of Fire continues. Stop pushing back and forth like this. If Muddy Waters is not there, you will all die. God paused with his left hand and sneered, "Of course, if he is here, he will die too. No one can challenge my authority." After saying this, the eyes of God's left hand opened sickly, and immediately a black shadow separated from his body. The black phantom has devilish horns on its head, and its mouth opens wide to let out a jaja's sinister laugh. Judging from its appearance and size, it is about the same size as God's left hand. This is his demonic shadow clone. God's left hand is the sword demon, and the demon shadow clone is one of his powerful means. The attributes of the shadow clone are synchronized with God's left hand, and because it is a shadow clone, it also has the characteristic of being immune to physical attacks. Kill. God snorted coldly from his left hand, and the demon shadow clones flew out. One had a golden bull body, and the other was physically immune. The two sides joined forces and quickly took Long Lu and others away. The Sea of Fire released by the Flame Tiger continues to burn. In the Sea of Fire, apart from the Flame Tiger himself, only God's left hand, the demon shadow clone and Xiaojin were left. When Xiaojin saw that Xianyu and Long and Alice had escaped, and the others had died in the battle, he didn't dare to fight, so he turned around and ran away. Xiaojin is an Emperor-level life. Although its basic speed is not as good as the Lion of Light, it can also wear equipment. With the attribute blessing of a 5-element suit, its speed is even slightly faster than that of the Lion of Light. "Humph, you can't escape." God snorted coldly with his left hand, and immediately activated the bloodline skill to apply oil on the solace of his feet. Because he is of the bloodline of the mythical beast goblin, his movement speed doubles in 1 minute. Compared with the 30% increase in movement speed of the bloodline of the Yangtian spirit beast goblin, I don't know how much more powerful he is. Call out. God's left hand flew out like the wind, pulling out a long trail of smoke behind him. His speed was actually faster than Xiaojin. After catching up, he unleashed a crazy output. All attributes and skills of the demonic shadow clone are synchronized with God's left hand. Of course, it also has oil on the solace of its feet. It outputs one person and one shadow at the same time, causing Xiaojin's blood tank to drop continuously. Xiaojin's pure physical output could not do anything to the demonic shadow clone, so he could only fight back at God's left hand. Xiaojin was 3 yards tall, and the 5 elements giant sword was infinitely magnified in its hand. Its attack range was extremely large, but it could not stick to the corner of God's left hand despite being hit here and there. Beasts are beasts after all. Even imperial beasts are far less intelligent than humans. God sneered with his left hand and said, "What's more, your current opponent is still the strongest among humans like me." God's left hand was almost playing with Xiaojin, 0 hits, unlimited hits. God's left hand has the blood of a divine beast, purple fighting spirit. If the corpse explosion and the deepening of damage are excluded, his combat power is even superior to Yang Tian, not to mention that he also has a magic shadow clone with the same combat power as him. In just a few seconds, Xiaojin was already at low health under the strong attack of God's left hand and the magic shadow clone. No, the strongest human must be my master under the opponent's strong attack. Xiaojin was like a candle in the wind, but he did not forget to establish prestige for Yang Tian. It was obviously just a struggle and sophistry before death, but it was like a fuse, igniting a negative emotion in the heart of God's left hand, making God's left hand's eyes burst open, like a demon. A mere skeleton dares to claim to be the strongest, looking for death. God's left hand roared out of control, and the giant sword in his hand flashed a demonic red light, straight through Xiaojin's body. After taking the hit, the soul fire in Xiaojin's eye sockets, which symbolized life, was instantly extinguished, and then his body shattered like broken porcelain, turning into a pile of broken bones on the ground. Among the broken bones, there was a round black sphere. Xiaojin died in battle again, and his soul was once again preserved in the form of a soul ball. Super God Undead Lord. Author, Ba Wang Shi-san. Chapter 324. Thunder Skeleton King Soul Ball, Royal Grade Unsummonable, Tradable. This soul ball can devour other souls to evolve, thereby upgrading to a higher grade. It can actually devour souls to purify. God bent over with his left hand to pick up the soul ball, and was slightly startled. Now he finally understood why there was a skeleton king at the level of the royal beast. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little fortunate and scared. Previously, he didn't take Xiaojin seriously, because at this stage, the role of the royal beast war servant is far less important than in the early stage. But he never expected that Xiaojin actually had the ability to devour souls to evolve. If he left it alone, Xiaojin would sooner or later become a soul gatherer, and he would be very uncomfortable in that case. Fortunately, he had killed Xiaojin and solved this huge threat that he didn't know before, which is why he was very fortunate for everything he did today. On the other side, Yang Tian, who was washing his sin value in the city of Sin, suddenly heard a system prompt in his ear. "System, your servant Thunder Skeleton King died." Well, what happened? The incident happened too suddenly. Yang Tian was caught off guard, and it took him a long time to calm down. At this time, Long Lu and others sent a message in the team channel, "Brother Shui, God's left hand has reached level 80, and we had a conflict on the island. Except for Xianyu and Alice who escaped, we were all wiped out, and I don't know what happened to the Skeleton King. When we died, only it was still alive." "Xiaojin also died in the battle," Yang Tian replied. Yang Tian's tone was surprisingly calm, which surprised everyone. "It doesn't matter, it's not shameful for you to lose to God's left hand. I will get this place back later." Yang Tian smiled. The reason why he was so calm was that he could resurrect Xiaojin. The native life of Tegzu all has souls, that is, souls. The stronger the life, the stronger the souls, and the more there are. For example, the spirit collector has 1 soul and 3 spirits, and Xiaojin may only have 1 soul and 2 spirits, or even 1 soul and 1 spirit. He has the special skill skeleton manufacturing technique, which can create skeleton kings infinitely. In short, as long as Xiaojin's soul is found, Xiaojin can be resurrected again. If Xiaojin died in the battle before, Yang Tian would definitely be sad and at a loss. Because even if he knew the method of resurrection, it would be extremely difficult to find a soul that has left the body. But now it is different. As long as he resurrects Dr. Edith, with the complete version of the soul exploration instrument, it will not be difficult for him to find Xiaojin's soul. That's why he is so calm. Of course, he doesn't know that Xiaojin died in the battle this time, and his soul was completely preserved in the form of a soul ball, and the soul ball is still in the hands of God's left hand. I have too many sins here, and it will probably take another 3 to 5 days to come out. Since God's left hand is so strong, you don't have to go to the Sea of Ruins for the time being, Yang Tian said. Well, the yellow-haired boss and Xiao Fei were killed and imprisoned in the big prison. They probably won't be able to come out for several days. We will temporarily upgrade the Brothers of the Water Alliance, and everything will be decided after you come out, the green algae head said. Well, that's it? Yang Tian continued to kill monsters to clean up the sin value. Day by day, many masters reached level 80 every day and went to the Sea of Ruins to open up Wasteland. After a few days, the Sea of Ruins became completely lively, and more than 10 islands were opened up. You know, the Sea of Ruins is a world map, and the native monsters in it are not only experienced, but also have a high explosion rate. It can be said to be a treasure land. And almost every island is occupied by some alliances and major powerful guilds. After many alliance masters passed the level 80 hurdle, Yang Tian and others lost their original advantages, not to mention snowballing. Of course, Yang Tian didn't care too much. Victory and defeat are common in the military. After clearing the sin value, Yang Tian came out of the city of sin as soon as possible. These days, he killed countless hellhounds, even a lot of hell three-headed dogs, and successfully got their summoning skill books. Yang Tian took out the small radar and located the coordinates of Dr. Edith's last soul. The pointer on the small radar screen was spinning wildly, and after a long time, the red dot finally appeared. Soul exploration instrument, defective positioning was successful, and the master's last soul was floating in the world forest. World forest, Yang Tian was stunned. He had been to that place before. There was a sacred tree there, and he had taken the heart of the sacred tree. The world forest is undoubtedly a level 150 map. Since Dr. Edith's hero soul is there, it means that he is at least level 150. It can be seen that Edith was a spirit king above level 150 when he was alive. After his death, he was divided into one soul and 3 spirits. The strongest hero soul retained his level before his death. Of course, it is only the level. Edith's hero soul certainly cannot gather spirits, and the attributes are only slightly stronger than the emperor beasts of the same level. More importantly, Dr. Edith is not good at fighting and has no combat profession, so the real combat power of his hero soul is definitely not as good as that of the same level royal beast. Yang Tian is currently level 82, and it is definitely unwise to look for the hero soul now, because he cannot defeat it. But as long as he reaches level 120 and stimulates the blood of the spirit beast goblin in his body to gather spirit, it will be almost possible. The most important thing now is to revive Dr. Edith, but before that, I must first reach level 120 to gather spirits. Yang Tian pondered for a second and immediately began to gather people. Half an hour later, Yang Tian, along with Huangmao Xiaofei and others, as well as hundreds of masters in the Water Alliance who had reached level 80, drove into the Sea of Ruins. At this time, Yang Tian and others looked at the map again and found that more than 10 islands had appeared on the map. These were obviously opened up by God's left hand and other strong men. Yang Tian did not go to open up new islands, but went to the first island, which was the Earth Dragon Island. For him, leveling up is the main thing now. He is not in a hurry to find God's left hand to get back at him. There is no need. And God's left hand is really strong enough. It is recognized as the first in the national service. This is not water. Even in the previous life, Yang Tian did not dare to wander around in front of God's left hand. At that time, he must have surpassed the same period in the previous life, but even so, he was not sure to face God's left hand. If he was killed, it would undoubtedly be a huge injury. In the game Taezu, the higher the level, the harder it is to upgrade. Yang Tian is now level 82. It is impossible for him to upgrade without 3 to 5 days. He is now eager to upgrade to level 120, and he doesn't want anything to happen before that. He can find a place later, but he is the Lord of the Undead, and he has already formed. His upgrade speed is absolutely N01. He can go all out to upgrade first, and then use the level to suppress the opponent. This is how you play games. All factors must be taken into consideration, and you must learn to use them together. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 325. System, you have discovered the Island of Ruins, 1. As the system prompt sounded, Yang Tian and his companions landed on the shore smoothly and headed directly to the core of the island, the Earth Dragon Cave. In the open space in front of the Earth Dragon Cave, there are the most Earth Dragons, and leveling there is undoubtedly the fastest. Bang bang bang. Before Yang Tian and his companions arrived, there were already noisy battle sounds coming. It seems that the place has been reserved by a certain force. Let's go over and take a look. It would be best if we can talk, if not, we can drive them away, Yang Tian said forcefully. The leveling treasure land in the game has always been occupied by the capable. Yang Tian believes that he is capable, so he is absolutely unambiguous. Muddy Water, it's you. The players who booked the venue were the main force of Aoshi of the Sword Emperor. The Sword Emperor said, if I remember correctly, you guys are the first batch of players to reach level 80 in the Chinese theater. With your strength, you should occupy the islands ahead, right? What, are you still jealous of this first island? Yang Tian and others were ready to fight, but seeing that the Sword Emperor's attitude was not bad, they held back. Don't mention it, except for this guy, we were all slaughtered by God's left hand. Huang Mao pointed at Yang Tian and said to the Sword Emperor in a depressed tone. God's left hand is really strong, and even you are not his opponent, the Sword Emperor sighed. Since he could say that, he naturally recognized the strength of Yang Tian and others. After all, the two sides have fought many times, and the Sword Emperor was almost defeated. It's impossible not to accept it. In that case, you should go to God's hand to get back at me. There's no need to be hostile to me anymore, right? Sword Emperor said. Although he was very afraid of the strength of Yang Tian and others, he couldn't let him give up the island. God's hand is indeed very strong. I think we should avoid it for the time being. Sword Emperor, don't waste any more time. You know what I mean. Either you give up half of the venue, or we go to war, Yang Tian said calmly. Arrogant. Hearing this, the masters of Aoshi suddenly became anxious and almost couldn't help but take action. Sword Emperor also frowned, and after a while, he said, Muddy Water, instead of giving up half of the venue to you, it's better for you and me to join forces and take all the previous islands into our account. Yang Tian was stunned. Oh, are you willing to join forces with me? Sword Emperor is the kind of person who has strength, ambition for revenge, and is arrogant. Yang Tian never thought that he would join forces with him. In his opinion, Sword Emperor will even find an opportunity to take action against him in the future. Of course it's only temporary. You and I will join forces to achieve our respective goals. If we can successfully trip up the left hand of God and Zeus, it will undoubtedly benefit you and me, Sword Emperor said. President. Boss. Aoshi Fenshin and others were immediately anxious. They said they were joining forces, but in fact they were forced. Yang Tian obviously had the intention to start a war, and Sword Emperor didn't dare to accept it, or at least didn't want to accept it, so he proposed to join forces. Speaking of joining forces, what's the difference between this and surrender? When have they, the elites of Aoshi, ever suffered such humiliation? At this time, Sword Emperor waved his hand, indicating that I have made up my mind, and you don't need to say anything more. Okay, then we will join forces. Yang Tian smiled, and then the two big guys Yang Tian and Sword Emperor shook hands and reached an alliance. The Aoshi Guild was also successfully incorporated into the Water Alliance. Although this may be only temporary, the significance is extraordinary. Because in the eyes of outsiders, the Water Alliance already has the majestic foundation to take down Aoshi, which will undoubtedly have great benefits for the expansion of the Water Alliance's reputation. Haha, with Aoshi joining us, our Water Alliance is getting stronger and stronger, Xiaofei, Green Algae Head and others all said excitedly, and a group of subordinates also showed excited smiles. On the contrary, the masters of Aoshi all looked livid. For them, joining the Water Alliance is definitely not a glorious thing. Fenchen, Lingyun, our common dream is to make Aoshi the first guild in China or even the world. Although we have worked hard enough, there are still many powerful forces blocking us. We don't have enough strength to go further. If we just wait like this, we will only be snowballed by others and the gap will be widened. Now cooperating with Han Shui is a rare opportunity for us. Sometimes, opportunities often coexist with some negative pressure. We must learn to be patient. Only in this way can we realize our dreams. At this time, the Sword Emperor sent a private message to a group of confidants to calm their emotions. Got it, Boss. Fenchen and others nodded, and their expressions eased a lot. The Ruins Islands 2 to 5 ahead are all the territories of mythology. If we defeat them, we can take over 4 islands in a row. How about it, are you interested? After comforting Fenchen and others, the Sword Emperor immediately said to Yang Tian. The two sides had just formed an alliance, and he wanted to start using this power. Yang Tian smiled when he heard this. He knew exactly what the Sword Emperor was thinking. Actually, I just want to find an island to level up. Any island will do. But since you are so interested, I can help you. Who told you that we have formed an alliance? Yang Tian said with a smile, especially emphasizing the word alliance. Since he has already agreed, then the Water Alliance will obviously open fire with mythology next. At that time, the Sword Emperor and even Aoshi may be slacking off in the back, so Yang Tian had to remind them. In the exchange of fire between two heavyweight forces, it is inevitable that someone will die. You must know that in the fierce group battle, Yang Tian can only protect himself, and it is unlikely to protect other subordinates. Now everyone is level 80, or even level 81 or 82. If one level dies, it will undoubtedly be very painful. And if Jian Huang or even Aoshi chooses to fish in the water in the back and let the elites of the Water Alliance serve as cannon fodder, Yang Tian will definitely not be willing to do so. Since we have formed an alliance, we must share the losses. Then let's set off now. After being hinted by Yang Tian, Jian Huang still looked calm and spoke calmly. Immediately, the Water Alliance army set off on ships and rushed towards the Ruins Island, too. After arriving at the island, under the leadership of Yang Tian, the yellow-haired Jian Huang and others, the Water Alliance army quickly killed the mythical elites who stayed on the Ruins Island, too, by surprise. Humph, Sword Emperor, I never thought that Aoshi would be incorporated into the Water Alliance. I think you are getting worse and worse. An elite of mythology quickly sent a message for help to the president, Wo Zi Fifan, and at the same time did not forget to mock Sword Emperor and Aoshi's masters. Haha, you mythology occupy 4 islands alone. I'm afraid you can't eat it, so I asked Brother Shui to join forces to help you digest it. Sword Emperor ignored the ridicule and smiled faintly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 326. Hearing this, the elites of mythology immediately broke out in a sweat. They knew very well that they would never be a match for Yang Tian Sword Emperor and his men. Not long after, they were completely annihilated by the concentrated fire of the Water Alliance army. On the other side, Izi Fifan, who was far away on the Ruins Island, 5, received news of the invasion of the Water Alliance army. Although his main force was on the 5th island, in fact, their Myth Alliance had set up teleportation arrays on islands 2 to 5. It would only take a moment to teleport there. The important thing was whether they chose to teleport there. I didn't expect that Sword Emperor would abandon his dignity in order to rush forward and actually choose to join forces with Han Shui Yinu Hongyan and the others. Izi Fifan heard the news and sighed, and his words seemed quite disappointed. He had always thought highly of Sword Emperor, but he didn't expect that the other party would be inferior to him one day. Brother Fan, since they have captured our 2 islands, let me take people over to teach them a lesson. Mythology Woody asked for a fight. He is the vice president of mythology, second only to one person and above 10,000 people. He is also a hidden professional Iron Knight, and his strength is terrifying. No hurry. Izi Fifan waved my hand after hearing this. Don't worry, Brother Fan, Aoshi was not our opponent before, and it is still the same now. I will take people over and guarantee to kill Jian Huang Fenchen and those people back to level 79. Mythology Woody thought that the president had some concerns, and quickly patted his chest to guarantee. The scary thing is never the Sword Emperor and his Aoshi, but that muddy water. Haven't you noticed? When we were in the Shinwu Empire, we couldn't control that person. Izi Fifan shook his head and said, besides, his Water Alliance is no longer what it used to be. Now that it has annexed Aoshi, it is almost one of the strongest forces in the country. If we fight them like this, it will be difficult to gain an advantage. But Brother Fan. Myth Invincible wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by Izi Fifan. Okay, that's it. I have contacted Qiu Feng from the Hall of Fame. They are willing to merge with my myth and form an alliance. I will go and deal with the relevant matters first. After this matter is settled, it won't be too late to start with the Water Alliance. After saying that, Izi Fifan teleported away, while Myth Invincible still looked depressed. In his opinion, Myth's foundation is deep enough that even the current Water Alliance can be easily taken down. At this time, the Myth Guild channel sounded a prompt message. Guild channel, Myth, please note that the teleportation array of the Ruins Island, 2, where our guild is located, has been destroyed. There is no doubt that Yang Tian led the Water Alliance army to capture the 2 islands, and naturally he had to destroy the teleportation arrays of any other forces on the islands to achieve complete occupation. However, Shenhua Woody was even more furious when he heard such news. On the side, the black-haired enchanting beauty in night clothes smiled and said to him, Woody, there is no need to worry, Brother Fan will never change what he decides. She is another vice president of Shenhua, and also my extraordinary woman Goiji. Shenhua Woody rolled his eyes and said, Goiji, should we send someone over? It's just a Water Alliance, even if Brother Fan is not here, we can easily suppress it with our strength. Goiji was stunned when she heard this. Shenhua Woody said, Brother Fan has always been as steady as a mountain in doing things, which I admire very much. But sometimes if you want to seize an opportunity, you should act decisively. You have also seen that if this continues, the Water Alliance will continue to capture 3 or 4 islands, and we will lose a lot. Goiji nodded and said, well, according to Brother Fan's idea, even if we win in the end, we will suffer some losses. But the Water Alliance is now strong, and Brother Fan is not here. We can only rely on ourselves. Seeing that Goiji was a little moved, Shenhua Woody hurriedly said, what Water Alliance? Sister Gui, you don't know yet, just a while ago, the masters of the Water Alliance were slaughtered by God's left hand alone. It is conceivable that the Water Alliance is not that important. At most, Aoshi has joined now, but Aoshi has always been defeated by our Shenhua. Okay, I promise you, Goiji finally nodded. Seeing this, Shenhua Woody laughed excitedly and immediately began to gather people. Because the second island had been captured and the teleportation array was destroyed, he sent all the masters above level 80 in the guild to teleport to the third island to wait for the Water Alliance to take the bait. On the other side, the Ruins Island, too. Very good, Brother Shui, we will continue to sweep from the third island and drive the myth away in this way. The Ruins Island 1-5 will all be our territory. The Sword Emperor laughed wantonly. Yang Tian nodded, and he naturally had no objection. To be honest, looking at the national server now, except for the god's left hand, which made him a little afraid, he would not take the other people and forces too seriously. He was also very willing to defeat the myth and occupy the 5 islands in one fell swoop. Focus fire, shoot. When the Water Alliance army drove the ship to the shore of the third island, before they landed, they saw countless shooters suddenly jumping out of the deep grass on the shore. Under the enemy's concentrated fire, the Water Alliance army was immediately hit head-on. In the current stage of Takezu, the output ability of high-end players must exceed defense. Soon, more than half of the Water Alliance army died, and they all turned into white light and disappeared. Damn it, how did they know we would land from this side? Xuanggro said angrily. There is no doubt that this wave of sneak attacks by mythology has caused heavy losses to the Water Alliance. The Sword Emperor frowned deeply, and the current scene made him understand one thing instantly: among his arrogant masters, there are also traitors of mythology. Strictly speaking, it is normal for forces to arrange spies and traitors between each other, and it is extremely difficult to check. However, if there are spies and traitors among the internal high-level and elite members, it will be very terrible. Myth. I didn't expect your people to be able to infiltrate our elite group, the Sword Emperor roared angrily when the other Water Alliance troops were busy dodging. Haha, Sword Emperor, this is our myth's method. You Aoshi want to win us, it's still 100 years too early. Myth Invincible came out, carrying a golden spear, laughing wildly. Brother Shui, what should we do now? The people of the Water Alliance asked anxiously. Several ships of the Water Alliance were traveling side by side, and were simultaneously fired at from the left, middle and right directions by the opponent, making dumplings, making everyone complain and unable to fight back. They couldn't help but feel half disappointed and lost the courage to fight. Yang Tian's eyes condensed. Now he has suffered heavy losses. If he retreats, it will be a big loss. With his personality, he must fight back and make up for the losses. All the shield warriors on the ships should move forward to open the iron wall to resist the firepower, and the rest of the people should stay back and continue to move forward, Yang Tian said firmly, while constantly calculating the distance between the ships and the island shore. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 327. The shield warriors received the order and stepped forward, raising their shields to open the iron wall, forming a steel wall-like defense to protect the output professions in the rear. The iron wall of the shield warriors could barely withstand the enemy's concentrated fire. But as long as the shield warriors in the front row died, the Water Alliance would be defeated, or even annihilated. Everyone didn't understand why Yang Tian still chose to move forward, but now they could only choose to believe. Archers break armor, mages blast, hit me hard. Myth Invincible laughed wildly, looking very high-spirited. Archers can learn armor-piercing arrows. After this skill hits the target's physical defense will be reduced within 5 seconds. The amount of reduction is a percentage, which depends on the level of the armor-piercing arrow. Mages can learn elemental blasting. After this skill hits the target's magic defense will be reduced within 5 seconds. The amount of reduction is also a percentage, which depends on the level of elemental blasting. In short, these two skills are both great skills for fighting in groups. In an instant, countless armor-piercing arrows and elemental explosions came over. In order to protect the output behind them, the shield warriors did not dare to dodge at all, and could only choose to bear it. At this moment, the double defense of each shield warrior was reduced, and the endurance was greatly weakened. Haha, Sister Gui, at this pace, when they rush over, the whole army will be wiped out. I have said long ago that our mythology is profound, and the mere water alliance is not an opponent at all. Shenhua Woody laughed, looking very proud. Guiji also smiled knowingly when she heard this, thinking that after this wave of victory, Brother Fan will definitely look at me with new eyes. Yang Tian's face was cold, and seeing some shield warriors die in front of him, his brows frowned fiercely. At the same time, he did not forget to calculate the distance. The distance is finally enough. Summon the undead. Yang Tian's eyes condensed, and he immediately waved his hand, playing a huge summoning array on the opposite island shore, and immediately summoned more than 700 skeleton warriors. Mythology has a deep foundation. Even if there are thousands of masters above level 80, the sudden appearance of more than 700 skeleton warriors still caught them off guard. Moreover, these skeleton warriors are not ordinary elite monsters. With the blessing of Yang Tian's attributes, their output is terrifyingly high. There is no need for Yang Tian to deliberately command them. Those skeleton warriors will automatically find targets and chop people, bursting out with powerful output capabilities, almost all one cut. Yang Tian's wave of undead summoning instantly caused mythology to lose hundreds of masters. So many skeleton warriors, how many teams of undead mages did the other side come? Don't talk nonsense. Looking at the national server, there is only one undead mage above level 80, Han Shui. What? Are you saying that Han Shui can summon so many undead mages by himself? Let's not talk about how high his skill level is. Can his mana withstand it? This is unscientific. Under the crazy slaughter of the skeleton warriors, the mythology army became messy. This is normal, because the reason why no one plays the Necromancer is mainly because he consumes too much mana, and the so-called summoning of thousands of troops is simply a luxury. Only Yang Tian has the heart of the divine tree. His mana is close to 2 million, and he has the special effect of recovering 10% of mana per second. He can not only summon thousands of troops, but also maintain thousands of troops for a long time, which is the most terrifying. Don't panic, get rid of these damn skeletons first. Myth Invincible seemed a little anxious. He roared and stabbed out with a black gun, killing a skeleton warrior first. As an Iron Knight and tank profession, he has such a high output, which is very good. After all, this elite level skeleton warrior has more than 1 million health points. Hearing this, the myth army began to reorganize and execute orders to kill the skeletons. There is no way. There are many skeleton warriors blocking in front. They can't continue to focus on the Water Alliance army regardless of the threat. Brother Shui is awesome. Seeing Yang Tian reverse the situation with one move, the Shuimeng army was all excited. Some shooters lost their threat and began to fight back. Shenhua Wudi, Gaiji, and even some cotters began to harvest skeleton warriors frantically. They were all strong enough, especially Gaiji. As an assassin, she was fast and had high burst. She wandered among the skeletons like a nightmare. Once the dagger was swung, a skeleton warrior would be crushed to the ground. Her killing efficiency was terrifying. In a few breaths, she had killed dozens of skeleton warriors in seconds. However, more people fought and retreated. What are you doing? Just a group of skeletons, can't you kill them in seconds? Why retreat, bastard? Shenhua Wudi almost lost his composure and roared at some shooters. Brother Wudi, we were killed in seconds, but they can also kill us in seconds. It's not easy for us to reach level 80, we don't want to die. Yes, those are not skeleton warriors at all, they are all skeleton kings. The damage is too high, they kill everyone they see, it's not reasonable at all. The people of Shenhua complained. Shenhua Wudi roared, but didn't force it. As a top 100 expert in the national server battle list, he knows the characteristics of the Necromancer. The Undead eats attribute strength, critical hit rate, burst damage, and armor penetration. He knows that the reason why those skeleton warriors are so terrifying is entirely because of Yang Tian's personal terror. I really underestimated him. As a Necromancer, his mana, damage burst, and skill level can be said to have reached the current perfect level. Shenhua Wudi brewed in his heart for a second and had to admit Yang Tian's strength. But the Necromancer is only a fragile one after all. No matter how strong the undead army under his command is, he himself is the biggest weakness. Myth Invincible curled his lips, sneered in his heart, and immediately communicated with Goiji. Goiji, at this pace, they can go ashore. I will hold the muddy water later, you kill him in the first place, and then we will continue to harvest. Well, don't worry. Goiji nodded, showing strong confidence. As a powerful assassin, she is sure to kill any fragile profession first. Immediately, she stepped back and temporarily withdrew from the battle. After waiting for 5 seconds of cooling, she could enter stealth mode, so as to find an opportunity to sneak attack and kill Yang Tian in seconds. Myth has a lot of people after all, and soon all the more than 700 skeleton warriors were wiped out. But those skeleton warriors also delayed enough time for the Water Alliance army. At this time, the Water Alliance army landed on the island while roaring. "Humph, I'm on the shore, so you guys can't have fun anymore." Yang Tian transformed into the vampire count, leaped, and reached the other side. The army charged, but he stood still and began to chant the Dark Sea of Fire. Super God Undead Lord. Author, Ba Wang Shi-san. Chapter 328. Yang Tian's weapon is the 5 Elements magic book. Generally, magic books have the characteristic of increasing the chanting speed, and the 5 Elements magic book is an 80-level royal weapon with amazing effects. In less than half a second, Yang Tian had finished chanting, and he raised his hand and waved it to shoot out the Dark Sea of Fire. Only Yang Tian's feet were on fire, and the black flames spread in all directions. Yang Tian stood on the shore, and the Dark Sea of Fire was polarized. A huge black semicircle appeared on the sea behind him. It was the Black Flame. The terrifying high temperature boiled the sea water, and countless bubbles came out gurgling, which looked very magical. A huge black semicircle also appeared in front of Yang Tian, which was even more messy, making the green grass burnt black and thick smoke billowing. At that moment, countless masters of mythology who were within the range of the Dark Sea of Fire were burned to death and turned into white light and disappeared in the flames. Of course, the Water Alliance players who were also within the range of the Dark Sea of Fire would not be harmed, including the Aoshi army. Because once the alliance is formed, the system will determine it as a friendly army. System: you maliciously killed the player Xiake, sin value add 1. System: you maliciously killed the player San Shen, sin value add 1. System: you maliciously killed the player Xin Bai Tiangao, sin value add 1. System: please note that your sin value has reached 1825 points. As the system prompt sounded in his ears, Yang Tian couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had just washed away his sin value not long ago, but in just a moment, it became a big red name again. Why is the damage of the Sea of Fire so high? In the myth, the players trapped in the Sea of Fire were almost killed in seconds, and those who survived were all tanks. The tanks had high defense and thick blood, so they were not killed instantly, but the power of Yang Tian's Dark Sea of Fire was too strong, causing them to lose blood continuously in the Sea of Fire, and they could not hold on for a few seconds. I know. His Dark Sea of Fire also has a TP effect. It not only burns the target, but also reduces the target's dark resistance. Damn, my thousands of dark resistance has now become negative, no wonder it hurts so much, the myth masters wailed, and seeing their blood bars dropping like water, they were frightened and turned around and rushed to the place outside the Sea of Fire. After all, no matter how high the damage of the Dark Sea of Fire is, it has a fixed range. As long as you escape from the range, you will naturally not be burned. Haha, you can't escape, Yang Tian sneered and raised his hand to release the darkness. At this moment, the nearby sky darkened, causing the dark resistance of all the opponents to decrease by 5,500 points again. And the opponent's dark resistance decreased, which invisibly strengthened the power of the Dark Sea of Fire again. Chi chi chi. See, those myth masters who tried to escape from the Sea of Fire instantly screamed and fell to the ground, turning into white light and disappearing. Yang Tian used a Dark Sea of Fire to kill most of the masters of mythology in 1 second with only 1% of magic damage. A bunch of idiots. Instead of running out of the Sea of Fire, you should join forces to kill the muddy water in 1 second. In that case, the Sea of Fire will disappear automatically. Stupid, you deserve to be demoted. At this moment, the only few strong people in mythology who were still within the range of the Dark Sea of Fire were Mythology Invincible, Doolittle, etc. Mythology Invincible saw that most of his army had been destroyed, and he roared in frustration. His wishful thinking completely collapsed. He originally planned to overthrow the Water Alliance at the lowest cost and drive the other party out of the sea. But now, their mythology is almost wiped out. When he thought of Brother Fan's cold and blaming eyes later, he couldn't help but panic in his heart. Damn it, let's fight. Even in this situation, as long as I cooperate with Ghost Sister to kill Han Shui in seconds, we still have a chance to win. By then, even if Brother Fan scolds me, I believe it won't be too bad. Shenhua Wudi gritted his teeth, madly waving the golden spear in his hand in the Sea of Fire, instantly killing a bloody road and rushing towards Yang Tian. As an Iron Knight, his double defense has reached a certain level. Whether it is the Dark Sea of Fire or the concentrated fire of some masters of the Water Alliance, he can take it hard. No one can stop him at all, and can only watch him rush towards Yang Tian like a mad dog. After all, the Dark Sea of Fire only has 1% of magic damage. It's not surprising that he can withstand it, but... Seeing Shenhua Wudi rushing towards him, Yang Tian didn't panic at all, and shot a bone spear in the backhand. Shenhua Wudi didn't take it hard, and turned around with a slight move. Ghost Hand. Yang Tian had already predicted his movement, and with a wave of his hand, the ground under Shenhua Wudi's feet cracked, and then a dark and ferocious arm stretched out and grabbed one of his feet, thus blocking his movement. Beautiful. Seeing Yang Tian's predicted ghost hand easily blocking Shenhua Wudi's movement, some of the surrounding Water Alliance masters cheered loudly. You know, prediction also depends on the person. The movement of a master like Shenhua Wudi is so coquettish, and Yang Tian controlled him, which shows how powerful he is. However, Yang Tian himself didn't care. He had experienced countless battles and didn't care about such trivial matters. When the ghost hand controlled Shenhua Wudi, Yang Tian immediately fired the second bone spear, TP bone spear. Shenhua Wudi's reaction was also very fast. After being controlled, he immediately opened the protection, which was the 5 elements shield. The 5 elements shield can reduce damage, and the amount of reduction depends on how many original powers you have. For example, Yang Tian possesses 5 origins: gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, which means that he can reduce all damage within 5 seconds. Although Shenhua Wudi only has 3 origins, he can also reduce 60% of the damage. The 5 elements shield and the Overlord body are both afraid of control. Once controlled, the 5 elements shield or Overlord body will be temporarily invalid during the control period, and will continue to work after the control is lifted. However, the ghost hand is not a strong control like freezing and stun, but only a pseudo-control such as blocking movement. Therefore, the myth Invincible was controlled by the ghost hand, but he could not move. He could still open the 5 elements shield, and the 5 elements shield was also effective. The TP bone shield accurately hit the myth Invincible. Although the latter had the 5 elements shield, he still lost most of his health. Ah, this guy's damage is so high. Myth Invincible was shocked when he saw that his health was less than 1/3. What made him even more desperate was that Yang Tian's ghost hand triggered a 3-second control, which means that he could not move within 3 seconds. He was simply a meat stick. Tumblr, help me block it. Thinking that he would also be downgraded, Myth Invincible actually screamed in panic. However, although he asked for help from the Tumblr was 10 yards away and could not rush over. Die. Yang Tian smiled teasingly and threw out a damage aggravation. At this moment, Mythical Invincible was once again hit by about 3 times the damage of the TP Bone Spear and was killed in a flash. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 329. Hiss. Seeing that Myth Invincible was killed in 2 hits, the Tumblr opened his mouth in surprise. He was the chief tank of Myth, and although Myth Invincible failed to snatch this title from him, Myth Invincible himself was also a tank profession like Iron Knight, and the latter was not much worse than him in terms of tankiness. However, Myth Invincible was killed instantly by muddy water. The damage was too high. He simply killed everyone he saw. No one could stop him. On the other side, Goiji, who was hiding in the shadows, also felt incredible. Everyone had already agreed that Myth Invincible would block muddy water and he would sneak attack first to kill him, but you, as a tank, were killed by the opponent first. What's going on? Forget it, it doesn't matter whether Woody is here or not. As long as I get to muddy water first, I can definitely kill him instantly. Goiji looked at Huang Mao, Xiaofei, Jian Huang, Shuangguo and others standing next to Yang Tian, and couldn't help but gritted her teeth. Without Shenhua Woody, even if she rushed over and killed Yang Tian in 1 second, she would definitely not be able to escape. But now that things have come to this, she had no choice but to do it, otherwise she would not be able to explain to me, Zi-Fifan. With this thought, she rushed out and flew towards Yang Tian from midair. In order to avoid the dark sea of fire, she had naturally opened the wings of fighting spirit. However, she didn't know that her every move was under the control of Yang Tian, who had the real eye and could see through all invisible things. Haha, this woman is coming to give it to you. Yang Tian sneered in his heart, but pretended not to see it on the surface. When Gaiji rushed to the position where he had an absolute grasp of the hit, he shot a curse arrow with his backhand, killing her in the eyes of Gaiji's shock and confusion. When Yang Tian killed Shenhua Woody and Gaiji in succession, the rest of the Water Alliance army also rushed out of the dark sea of fire and continued to chase and kill the remnants of Shenhua. Huang Mao, Jian Huang, Xiaofei and other strong men also surrounded the Tumblr and others. The Tumblr is a shield warrior, a pure tank. In terms of tankiness, although Shenhua Woody is slightly inferior to him, he still has high output ability. And he has almost no output ability. After the other main forces of Shenhua were besieged and killed, he was powerless. The combat power of Huang Mao, Jian Huang and others is also quite strong. They quickly took him away under the concentrated fire. So far, except for the president of the Shenhua army, Zi-Fifan, almost all the rest of the people have been killed, and all of them have been downgraded. It can be said that the loss is heavy. Quickly clean up the teleportation array of Shenhua on the island, Yang Tian ordered. All members of the Water Alliance acted separately, some cleaned the battlefield, some destroyed the teleportation array, and arranged their own teleportation array. The 5th island in the Sea of Ruins. Zi-Fifan teleported over with a gloomy face, and looked at the miserable face of Shenhua Woody, and was even more angry. This wave of Myth army was defeated miserably. Those masters who were exactly level 80 died in the battle and dropped back to level 79, and could no longer enter the Sea of Ruins. And those masters at level 81 or even level 82, even if they lost one level in the battle, their levels were still above level 80. After those people were defeated, they resurrected and came to this island again. Izififan looked at the obviously reduced number of people, and immediately said, before, there were as many as 4 or 5,000 masters above level 80 in our myth, but now there are less than 1,000 left. What are you doing? It's just nonsense. He didn't scold him by name, but Shenhuawudi knew that he was in the wrong, and he lowered his head sadly, wailing like a wounded old dog, "Brother Fan, I really didn't expect that Han Shui would be so perverted." Nonsense, if he wasn't that strong, how could his idea appear in the top 10 of the National Service battle list? Izififan snorted coldly. "Brother Fan, I am also wrong this time." Seeing that Izififan kept scolding Shenhuawudi, Goiji couldn't help but say embarrassedly. She was quite righteous, and didn't let Shenhuawudi take the blame alone. "Forget it, it's meaningless to say more now, but I'm very curious. With your strength, Goiji, you should be able to take the initiative to kill Han Shui, right? How did you lose so badly?" Almost all the members of the guild dropped one level, Izififan asked. "If I really took the initiative, I would be quite sure to kill Han Shui, but unfortunately I didn't take the initiative. Han Shui seems to be able to see through my invisibility." Goiji smiled bitterly, looking a little unwilling. Izififan frowned and said, "Can't archers also see invisible targets? Is it the Eye of Truth?" "The Eye of Truth? What skill is that?" everyone asked in surprise. "A special skill that can see through invisible targets, quite rare. I only know the name, not where it comes from. I didn't expect Han Shui to have it, so sneak attacks on him would be useless." Izififan shook his head. "Brother Fan, you don't know that Han Shui is so scary. His Dark Sea of Fire has a TP effect, which can almost kill all squishy heroes instantly. Except for me and the Tumbler, even ordinary tanks can't stay in his Dark Sea of Fire for more than a few seconds." Shenhuawudi said angrily, "We suffered a big loss before. He almost wiped out more than half of our people with the Dark Sea of Fire." "How is it possible?" Izififan was surprised. "Our Shenhua masters over level 80, even squishy heroes, are wearing a 5-element suit. Can he kill them instantly with the Sea of Fire?" This time, even Izififan was not calm. He thought he didn't underestimate Yang Tian, but he didn't expect that he still underestimated him. After all, the Sea of Fire, or the Dark Sea of Fire, has only 1% of the magic output. If the Sea of Fire can kill people in 1 second, then its basic magic attack is really too high to be imagined, and it is not at the same level at all. The Dark Sea of Fire of Muddy Water should have a full level, that is, a TP effect of level 100. The moment it burns a person, it also reduces the target's dark resistance by 5,500 points. Generally, who would have the time to stack so much dark resistance for a squishy skin? It would have been reduced to a negative number long ago. "Even ordinary tanks can't stand it," said the Tumbler. "No, you've overlooked the point. Attribute resistance corresponds to attribute strength, which is a multiple of damage. If the basic attack power is not high, no matter how high the multiple of damage is, it won't produce much output. Especially the Fire Sea has only 1% damage. Theoretically, there is no reason to kill people in 1 second even if the multiple of damage is high. For example, if you only have 10,000 basic magic attack, and the Fire Sea takes 1%, it is only 100. Even if the attribute strength damage is multiplied by 100 times, it will only burn 10,000 blood in 1 second. And 100 times the multiple of damage is out of reach at this stage. From this, it can be seen that the basic magic attack of Muddy Water must be terribly high. Izififan has a deep understanding of all aspects of the game attributes, and he has always been proud of it, but this time he used it to analyze Yang Tian, which made him shudder. Super God Undead Lord. Author, Ba Wang Shi-san. Chapter 330. My own analysis makes sense. Yang Tian's basic magic attack is indeed far higher than that of players at the same level. On the one hand, Yang Tian has a magic energy conversion ring. Although this ring has been integrated into Amos Hero Ring, the only special effect still exists. On the other hand, his 5 elements magic book is a add 20 enhanced weapon. All of these have created Yang Tian's super high basic magic attack. Looking at the national server, except for God's left hand, who has God level blood, probably no one can match him. In short, I have deeply understood the power of muddy waters. Xinyue Invincible didn't want to listen to Brother Fan's meaningless analysis anymore, and said anxiously, the most important thing now is that if we can't kill the muddy water first, we won't be able to fight in the team battle at all. He is too abnormal. Not only does he deal high damage, it's so simple. The range of his Sea of Fire is so large that he can kill people in an instant. He has countless powerful undead under his command. He alone can be compared to an army of 10,000 people. Hearing this, I am extraordinary, Goiji and others couldn't help but nodded. I said sincerely, in fact, in terms of damage, although I am not as good as him, I can still kill people in seconds, but in terms of consumption, I can't beat him. Maybe when I killed 100 people in the Water League in seconds, he had already killed my myth in seconds. Thousands of people. I was extremely impressed by the fact that the formed Necromancer was indeed too powerful. In terms of damage and damage range, it actually exceeded the elemental mage, known as a humanoid turret. Brother Fan, don't sigh. Now that the Water Alliance has defeated once, I believe they will kill him soon. All we can do now is to formulate a series of plans against Muddy Waters. Only by killing him first, the team can only by fighting can we win, Xinyue Invincible said anxiously. He seems to be a bit reckless and unwise, but he can always find the key points at critical moments and is very determined. Yes, I nodded from FIFA and started to implement the battle plan with everyone. At the same time, he also contacted Qiu Feng from the Hall of Fame and asked them to rush to the Sea of Ruins. After previous communication, Xinyue and Hall of Fame have formed an alliance, known as the Xinyue Alliance. On the other side, there is the third island in the Sea of Ruins. After a period of cleanup, the Water League completely occupied the island, and Yang Tian led people to continue reclamation. Because after the failure of Xinyue, all the masters huddled on the fifth island and did not dare to come out. The Water League easily captured the 4 islands. After clearing out the teleportation array, they completely occupied them. Although there are some twists and turns, everything is still within the plan. The Sword Emperor smiled and said, Brother Shui, you are indeed very strong. I am convinced. Now that we have defeated Xinyue once and are in full momentum, we will overthrow Xinyue's lair in one go. Let's completely occupy these 5 islands. Hearing this, Xiao Fei and others all rolled their eyes at the Sword Emperor and thought to themselves, because of the appearance of the traitor Xinyue among your people, our entire army was almost annihilated. You still have the nerve to say this now. You are so shameless. Thick. Xiao Fei said, I don't think there is any need to worry. Xinyue is stronger than imagined. The previous victory was all due to Brother Shui. But now he has become a super famous name. If he is killed by the opponent in a team battle, not only will we be defeated, but Brother Shui will go to jail for a month or 2. Ao Shifanshan smiled and said, no, Brother Shui has the highest output and the strongest burst among us. Of course we will protect him in team battles. He doesn't even have to step forward during the battle. As long as we light a sea of fire in the back and summon some undead, we can win a great victory. Humph, what you said sounds nice. The risk is not on you, so you can ignore the friendship of the alliance and just think about taking advantage of it, Huang Mao sneered. In fact, Everyone who has come to this day is a person who understands and sees through the intentions of Sword Emperor Fenchen and others without saying anything. After all, they also need the powerful combat power of Aoshi. Huang Mao choked, and Ao Shifenshin curled his lips. Forget it, this battle can be fought. The myth is not that scary. The really difficult ones are the forces at the front. Besides, if we take down 5 islands at once, it will be of great benefit to us. Yang Tian waved his hand, and both parties stopped talking. Immediately, Yang Tian led the Water Alliance army towards the 5th island. On the endless blue sea, there were 5 ships cutting through the sea, creating turbulent waves on both sides, and walking side by side. That is the Water Alliance army. Due to the presence of Xinyue's traitor in Proud World, when they attacked the 3 islands, they were tricked by Xinyue's vanguard and suffered heavy losses, including most of the masters above level 80. Currently, there are only 400 to 500 masters over level 80 in the entire Water League, riding on 5 ships. After all, the Water Alliance was established not long ago and has no foundation. 3 of the ships are from the Proud Army. As time goes by, the 5th island in the Sea of Ruins gradually appears before everyone's eyes. At this time, Yang Tian ordered the fleet to stop and said, "Sword Emperor, among your people there are spies planted by Xinyue. Every move we make must be under their control. If we rush to the 5th island rashly, we will definitely be in trouble. We will be targeted as before. This time there are fewer of us, and we might be completely wiped out." "What do you want to say?" the Sword Emperor frowned. "It's very simple. We will act separately and go to the 5th island in 2 groups." Yang Tian smiled. "You want us to be used as cannon fodder?" The Sword Emperor narrowed his eyes and his expression became gloomy. "Shenhua and Aoshi are old rivals for many years, but Shenhua is even better, having placed spies among the elite of Aoshi. Although the Water Alliance is unstoppable, it is only a newly established force after all, and does not have spies from other forces, especially among the elite high-level forces. As long as the 2 armies act separately, only the Aoshi army will be controlled by the other side, and the other forces of the Water Alliance, that is, Yang Tian's side, will naturally be safe. No, I'm just for the victory of the alliance. Since we are in alliance, we are all one family. For the final victory, some sacrifices are inevitable." Yang Tian smiled a little darkly. "Of course, after we take over 5 islands, I can give 123 of them to you, Aoshi. I believe this is enough to make up for your losses. Besides, you and I are in alliance, and there will be a broader future in the future, don't you think?" "Humph, I don't care about the mere 123 islands, muddy waters. What I really value is your potential. I believe that by joining forces with you, we can definitely defeat the army in a row, rush to the front position of the Sea of Ruins, obtain the best resources, and wait until we are strong enough to counterattack, so as to achieve the grand ambition of being the first in our country." The Sword Emperor shouted in his heart, but on the surface he was indifferent. "Yes, for the final victory, some sacrifices must be made.